right, this really could be the start to every single thing, well, that I broadcast when I begin with the following words. I might not know much, but I know this much, that if Amazon Prime can come out this week with a brand new docu-series, 6 episodes on the Arizona Pickleball League. I can't even, it's so astounding. I can't even get it out of my mouth. Breaking Pickleball is the name.
Is Larry Fitzgerald in this?
I don't know. You need to find out, Darren. By the way, do you really, Darren, Dani, do you think we need Darren to fess up after all these years? Does he really share the same birthday with Larry Fitzgerald? Did anybody ever check your birth certificate on that? August 31st, right? Yeah. Like, you know, the Little League World Series a few years ago, what was the Danny Almonte, that pitcher?
Yeah,
and he was like 17, and he tried to pass himself off as a 12-year-old.
Is that a concern that I would pass myself off on?
He actually drove to the Little League World Series finale. And just
Larry
wondering, for marketing purposes, did you at some point adopt the same birthday as Larry?
Wouldn't he have adopted the same birthday as me?
Oh, really?
I was around him for over a decade before he came along.
Yeah. By the way, Dani, fun factoid, USA Pickleball, which is the national governing body, is moving its headquarters to Scottsdale. So apparently we're the epicenter of all things.
So Fitz is going to be
pickleball.
involved in all this.
Yeah, maybe
interesting.
Mark Dalton.
He's got his own corner office over there. Is that what you're saying? So look, if Amazon Prime can launch a brand new docu-series on pickleball, then that's my segue to say we most definitely can talk about the Arizona Cardinals for the next hour or so on this edition of Cardinals Underground. Can we not? My goodness. I mean,
are we basing our decisions off?
I mean, the
pickleball?
NFL. I just looked it up because to refresh my memory, the NFL had 93 of the top 100 most watched telecasts in the U.S. across all programming.
And also was on Amazon, as long as you brought it up.
You're right. So, and by the way, 2 years ago was the 82 of the top 100. And then way back in 2018, it was 61 of the top 100. Last year, 93 of the top 100 rated TV shows were NFL broadcasts.
Great. I'm sure that prices to download platforms to watch NFL games won't go up because of that. So great news, Paul.
I'm also like that obviously the power of the NFL, also the lack of power of anything else broadcast anymore.
Yes, you're right. If it isn't live sporting events,
yeah,
what is it that's drawing big audiences?
Nothing.
Otherwise, it's fractured. Yeah,
you're splintered, and it'll be awesome until you start having to bundle all these things together, and you end up spending the same amount of money that you always spend on cable to get all these other.
Well, you guys say that, but the best show hasn't come out with the new season yet.
Which show is that, Dani?
Abbott Elementary.
I do know that show. It is a good show.
Abbott
I feel
Elementary.
better knowing that Paul hasn't heard it.
It's good. I'll do what I do best and play the dumb guy role. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a
really?
funny sitcom.
No clue.
Let me ask you this question, Paul. Do you ever
actually? This is gonna be bad.
Do you ever actually watch television? It's a fair question. You seem like the kind of person.
Yeah,
that
if you're sitting down on the couch, what are you turning on?
You don't watch television, do you?
Okay, I'm going to admit something. I have a hard time relaxing. I don't sit down and watch much of anything. I just don't.
Is that a medical condition?
Even
how'd you know about the pickleball documentary?
Even when I'm consuming content, it's usually me firing it up on the app and walking or doing something else, in the garage, out back. That's how I don't even watch it. Most of the time it's radio on TV. Yes. I'm just listening.
Got it.
That's the way I consume things.
Somehow that's what I pictured, and you've confirmed all of that.
I figure that's what retirement is for. I'll actually slow down long enough.
You're going to retire at some point?
No, by the way, I made this analogy with Craig Grillo. The preseason is to slow motion what the regular season is to the fast forward button. Is that apt? I mean, boom. Doesn't it feel like we're going from slow-mo to fast forward? Just the transition from the preseason and camp in August into September. And now all of a sudden, man, it is like so on. Is it not?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because the starters didn't play for the Cardinals. So it's going to feel real different.
It is going to feel faster. I'm trying to figure out, like, if you're going from slow mode, like, so there is no actual, like, regular play mode?
You're not really supposed to overanalyze it, Darren. I'm just trying to give, like, a sense of, how things ramp up, and all of a sudden it's week to week, and, and your deadlines are coming a little faster, a little more furious, if you will.
If you don't want me to overanalyze, then we need to be talking about this on a 2-minute drill and not on an hour-long podcast.
By the way, I did try and watch Fast and Furious 10 twice now. Just to let you guys know, sit down on the couch. I did try Really tried my best to watch Fast and Furious 10. So awful. I didn't make it past the halfway point.
But you've watched the first 9?
Twice.
Here's the thing is you sound like you're trying to apologize, and I've never even watched so much as a single second of any Fast and Furious movie, so I'm not offended.
That's good. That's why this works. We've got all areas covered, do we not, of the content universe.
So wait, you're telling me you don't sit down and watch anything, but if you are going to sit down and watch something, you're choosing to watch the Fast and Furious franchise?
My son's into cars. We tried to watch it, and I joined my son. It was sort of a family outing, and I couldn't make it. I had to pull the ripcord.
How did he do with it?
He didn't. He actually, to his credit, he agreed, and we turned it off.
Okay,
yes.
so it's not like the relationship is in shambles.
Yeah. So it's more vanilla. It was more vanilla in Simpleton than the NFL preseason in August. Put it that way. I'll just try and bring it back to
if
football.
you've already done 9 movies, what else can you talk about in the 10th?
It's a great point.
Well, which is a great segue to the Cardinals because we haven't seen anything what the Cardinals are going to do. Right. So this is like a brand new first no sequel kind of thing.
Yeah. What is this movie going to look like? Right? I mean, you have 4 stars based on the team captains. You have Kyler, you have James Conner, you have Budda Baker, and Kaiser White. So I guess those are your A-listers. They're atop the credits. They're the team captains. But what is it going to look like? We think we know, but do we really know?
I don't.
No.
I have no idea. And again, I appreciate where the players say, look, we practice well and we had the joint practices in Indianapolis and all this stuff. But we've all watched the NFL long enough. Week 1 and week 2, for that matter, is usually a cornucopia of stuff you never expected all across the league. So, like, is there really anything to predict? I don't even know if I'm willing to do that.
Even those joint practices themselves were a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You had some big plays. You had some big runs. You had some sloppy plays. You had plays being whistled dead. You had a little bit of some craziness and chaos on the special teams. Things getting chippy.
The part about the joint practices, I do think it can get chippy, but and I can't get into every player's head. But the bottom line is, I find it very, very hard to believe that players are treating it like a game. I know they're supposed to, but it's not, and you can't tackle. So I don't. Players have to still have in their head, it's just practice.
Man, it's the Allen Iverson. But look, there are guys. You get to the joint practice in week 2 of the preseason, and there is some urgency, though. Right, the depth chart has come out. There's some urgency, Sometimes guys like, hey, so like in golf, what's Saturday in a golf tournament? Moving day. Like, hey, this is the moving week. I better make a move right now, because you go into the 3rd preseason game and you're going to need a miracle.
Well, even when you get to the regular season, I wonder sometimes, it's like, if you're second string, let's say, and you're feeling pretty good about making the roster. Once you get to the regular season and you look at that depth chart, you're second string, but you're also the next guy out potentially if they want to make a move. So you go from being somewhat comfortable to like, wow, there's a lot fewer people if they want to make a move.
Guess what? There's a lot fewer team captains than a year ago. Are there not?
How many were there last year?
Is there a common denominator between these 4 names, you think? Other than they're really good players, is there a common denominator in those 4 team captains that were voted by the players this year as opposed to last year when JG said he decided upon the team captains?
I mean, I think ultimately it would be, I think with Kyler, it's just the quarterback is a natural. And I think with the other, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but it's a natural. And I think with the other 3 guys, they're just if you had to pick top of the heap who the quote-unquote leaders are, that's who would pop into your head for this team, in my opinion.
I think if you're talking heart and soul,
yes,
on
that's a good
both
one.
sides, right? We've talked about it and not to say that they don't have both, but the intelligence, right, and the passion of Kyler, and then just the way that James Conner runs the ball. And then on the other side, we've talked about Budda Baker is the epitome of what you would want to build a team around. And then you've got the passion and the intelligence of a Kaiser White. That's what it feels like. And I would imagine most of the players, if not all of them, because the players voted on the captains this year as opposed to the head coach last year, I'm sure they all had the same 4 in their votes.
I would agree. Like if you had a passion power poll, if you will, like these are the 4 dudes who really ooze football, right? Coaches talk about all ball. Like, are there any guys, bigger in that category than Kaiser and Buddha and James Conner? I mean, the dude is a mindset himself, James Conner, just the physicality, right? And bully ball, and then what Kyler has put into this entire offseason, right? And just is, I think, what he showed every single member of not only the locker room, but probably the organization as well, his commitment in the offseason and what he put in. So not a surprise right there. Although I guess the fact there isn't a special teams captain and Dennis Gardeck had been a 4-time team captain. A little bit, maybe that'd be the only semi-surprise.
Unless they got to the point where they went into it telling everybody, hey, we're only going to have 4 because we want to have this one rotating game day captain to make it a kind of a, not an even 5, because literally 5 is not even, but to have a 5th captain every game, and then that's just how it worked out. And I completely can see where Gannon is coming from, where he mentions the fact that multiple guys got votes. I mean, you can see other guys in that locker room potentially being those people, but I'm not really shocked that these are the 4 that we came out with.
By the way, Dennis Gardeck, wasn't he in the videos with Suga Sean O'Malley? Suga Sean, as the kids call him, right? Wasn't he the UFC star who was out of practice last week? Wasn't Gardeck in there sort of showing him some pass rushing moves?
First of all, did we get that clean? I want to have the sounder of Paul saying Suga.
I'm old enough to. Once upon a time, I actually interviewed Sugar Ray Leonard, so it's a little sobering. Now we're around. Now
Sugar Ray Robinson, you interviewed?
Not Sugar Ray Robinson. No, I'm not that old. Okay, Darren, you can save that for the next generation. But yeah, now we're eliminating
I am the next
R,
generation compared to you, Paul.
and it's Suga Sean O'Malley. And
yes, Dennis Gardeck was out there trying, kind of letting him catch some passes on him. It looked like a little bit.
My Calvisi consulting concept was, when in the middle of that, they should have had JG come out and throw Suga Sean out of practice for fighting. That's what they should have done. That would have been a good.
I see what you did there, Paul.
That would have been an outtake right there. Sugar Sean shows up.
Too bad they didn't consult you.
But gets thrown out for fighting. Come on.
I think that's another question we need to ask Dani. There's a lot of conversations about Calvisi consulting, but I'm not aware of a lot of jobs that has produced.
We can put you in contact with our social media team.
We haven't issued a lot of invoices recently. Anyway, players you'd like to see in the octagon. Who do you think, speaking of power polls, what names come to mind in this Cardinals roster you'd like to see in the octagon?
I don't watch any sort of fighting. There's so many branches of it. But so what do you look for? Do I want someone like big and stocky, or okay, that's the only requirement?
That's what the few times I've watched, which I'm not a big fan, no offense to Suga or all of you out there. I'm not a huge fan of mixed martial arts, but yeah, some of these little wiry dudes just, you know what you really need? Forget a badass. You need somebody who I'm not 100% sure is there completely mentally.
Well, you can't say that and then expect me to name a player on this team of who I'd want to see in a ring. That's
no.
Next topic, because
that's a hit and run.
I was going to name a player, and then you said that, and I can't name a player.
It's funny. Like, this just popped in my head. I happened to talk to Lorenzo Alexander a little bit during training camp, and Lorenzo is in wonderful shape considering he's whatever age he is and retired from the league for a number of years. And I made a comment about, are you looking for a tryout? Because you look like you could go out play. And he looked at me. We're on the sideline watching practice, and he goes, what I realize now when I look at these guys and what they're doing, he goes, I wonder how I ever got into this sport in the first place, because you kind of have to be a little bit off. And again, we joke about but even watching, I've said this a million times, a few different. Watching an NFL football game from the TV, down to the press box, to the stands, to the front row of the stands, to the sideline, it's different every time. Even if you're in the front row, you do not understand what it's like out there unless you're on the sidelines. And the one place I haven't been is the one place closer, which is actually on the field, which obviously that's never going to happen. But even being on the sideline, that is a frightening concept. Is it not?
Oh, absolutely.
You guys have both been down there.
I was 20 years on the sideline. There's no bigger difference in 5 yards of space than where you are on the sideline, across that white stripe onto the field of play. It's like a different planet. I don't think people understand just when Jonathan Gannon talks about the violence of the game, and he means that in physicality. It is a car collision every single play. 250, 300-pounders colliding into each other at top speed. And it looks, I don't know what it looks like on TV to most folks, but compared to what it appears on the sidelines, yeah, there's no bigger difference. And I should have better words to describe it after 2 decades on the sideline. But by the way, that's blasphemy by Lorenzo Alexander, because once upon a time, he was that guy who wasn't wired up correctly.
Well, and it's funny because when we talk about, from what little I've seen and making a jump, I know Dani doesn't want to make any predictions, but like I think of people like...
I just don't want to bet my paycheck on it.
Fair. Like Zach Pascal or DJ Dallas, and watching what they do on special teams and watching what they did in special teams, you know, during training camp where there's not a whole lot of hitting. The fact that I came out of training camp going, those dudes lay some serious lumber, and I'm not even talking about what I saw in games. I'm talking about what I saw in practice. Like, I could see them being in the octagon.
By the way, my power poll, guys who are equipped for the octagon, Big Mo, obviously, say no more. James Conner in the octagon?
Maybe.
Will Hernandez, I would enjoy seeing in the octagon.
That's why I was asking.
And you know, low-key, really effective, Roy Lopez with his wrestling background.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
He'd do some damage.
I was thinking like a Kaiser White or a Mack Wilson Sr.
Sure.
I can see Mack, especially the way he talks about himself. Yeah, I could see that.
Really? Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's made a couple mentions during press conferences about being a little bit unhinged.
By the way, if there's one player that I'm most curious to see, Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously is, that's Captain Obvious regular season, but who is Mack Wilson Sr.? What is Mack Wilson Sr.? How are they going to use him? To me, that's the biggest unknown when you just go player by player going into week one, other than Marvin Harrison Jr. And it's just Mack Wilson Sr. Exactly how are they going to deploy him? I'm really curious about that.
I mean, the whole linebacker core and how that might turn out and where Mack might bounce inside and outside, I think is up there for sure.
Yeah, I think it's clear we can expect to see him outside a good amount from just how well he looked doing that in New England and the amount of times we saw him when it was one-on-one drills at practice of working with the outside linebackers, going up against offensive linemen. Like I would expect to see him move around quite a bit.
By the way, speaking of badasses, Darren, that was your term earlier.
I thought you were going to call me one.
You ever heard of Annie Edson Taylor? In 1901, she became the first person to survive a barrel ride over Niagara Falls. A 63-year-old school teacher at the time from Bay City, Michigan. She used a custom-made oak and iron barrel padded with a mattress. You want guts. She was pulled from the barrel after 17 minutes with only a cut on her head.
How much would it take for you to do that, Paul, money-wise?
No.
You wouldn't do it?
Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, money combined is not getting me over Niagara Falls.
You have a pillow?
It's a mattress, Darren.
Oh, mattress. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
How do you fit a mattress in a barrel?
Apparently, her motivation was financial. She thought she was going to be able to monetize her fame, but it didn't quite.
Instagram said we're not putting this up.
Yeah,
sorry,
it didn't quite
Edith,
result in the wealth that she had hoped for.
Edith?
Annie.
Sorry.
Edson Taylor. So.
Annie, are you okay?
Yeah,
Are you okay, Annie?
Dani, what would be the most daring thing you've ever done in your life as the Cardinals prepare to go into Buffalo and Niagara Falls? And by the way, Buffalo, Niagara Falls is not on the list of 7 wonders of the world.
That's unfortunate.
But Grand Canyon is. So there's our first flex, the AZ on Buffalo.
I would probably say most people would consider skydiving or paragliding in the Swiss Alps.
Did you do one of those, though?
I did both of those.
Wow.
Did you really?
Really?
Yeah.
You did skydiving?
Yeah.
When?
For my 25th birthday. My dad and I drove out like middle of nowhere, like an hour and a half. He didn't do it with me, but I think my parents wanted somebody there. Like in the middle of Texas. Yeah, in the middle of Texas. Like north. And
honey, you need to go with our daughter because if she dies, we got to make sure that somebody's right there.
I'm sure that was part of the conversation. No, he drove me out there.
Right.
I went up in the plane, came down.
I assume it was like a tandem deal, like with an instructor.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed that?
Yeah, it was fun. I don't know that I would necessarily do it again. Like, do I really want to push my luck?
That's fair.
But it was fun.
I don't know if I'd have the guts to do that.
Maybe in my 20s, maybe. I had a chance to skydive out of a Stearman biplane. You guys know what the open cockpit Stearman biplanes were? It basically, think Snoopy in the, And so a good family friend, he was a pilot at United. He trained in those when he was in the Air Force, and he took me up once. It's one of those things where you're sitting in the front cockpit and there's someone behind you. And the only thing he's piloting this plane with, which, by the way, tops out at about 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Feels like you're just hanging in the air. Is a couple of metal pedals in front of you and a big wood joystick. And that's how he's piloting this thing. And I got in and he's doing the whole, and you're strapped in by leather belts across your shoulders. And then he's doing the flips and you're looking at the earth upside down and you're hanging.
All the finest in
by the leather
1912
belts.
safety.
Right, exactly. But the money line was before we went up. I think I was about 17 or 18. He said, I got an old parachute in the garage if you want to jump. He used to be in the Air Force. And my mom also almost lost her mind that he was going to go fold the parachute himself and let me jump with it.
What if you ended up doing something that you had no intention of doing? Does that still count?
Oh, let her rip, Darren. Here we go.
Well, I was like 10 years old and my parents decided we went out to like a hot air balloon deal. And there was like a bunch of hot air balloons there. And I don't know if this was one we were trying to get in them. There was like the basket was like, it was like a basket. It was like wicker or whatever. It was that kind of,
like one you'd buy at Pier 1 and
well,
just
I
hook
don't
it
know
up.
about that. I don't know if you can get those at Pier 1. But anyways, at the bottom of this basket were like the same type of, made out of the same material, but there were like these like little hoop things, like half hoops, like something you could tie a rope to, right? So they start the balloon is inflated, and apparently we're all trying to. I'm trying to help the adults, whatever, and we're trying to get this balloon down to the ground all the way. And something happened. I don't know, with another balloon where everybody had to run off and do it. I, for whatever reason, decided I was going to try and pull on this this little thing to try and help, quote unquote. And then everybody left. Now there were ropes on it, but not securing it to the ground. So everybody stopped pulling to go do this other thing. And when everybody left, it pinched my hands against the basket with this little hook thing. And I started leaving the ground. I was like 10 feet off the ground, screaming my head off before they ran back over and pulled the basket back down. But that was, I had a moment there where I'm like, am I just going to like sail off and eventually my fingers are going to pinch off because it hurt like a mother. And I'm just going to fall to my death.
And the biggest tragedy, no one got video. Like you would have gone viral with that. You could have ended up on like Dude Perfect or something.
Very true.
Yeah.
Although this was well before anybody had that option.
I
In
see.
fact, I would think I was young enough. I don't even know if personal video cameras existed yet.
I see. Okay.
Speaking of birthdays.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it's the whole Buffalo thing and Niagara Falls. Are you guys going on the Saturday, by the way?
I am. I've never been.
Nice.
I've been there a couple times. I may, depending. I wish we were a little closer, but I may give it a shot.
I think I went when I was like 3rd grade, 4th grade. So, that's enough for me. I'm good. By the way, the weather forecast, according to our local meteorologist, Jim Almohandro, is somewhere in the low 60s on game day.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Better take a jacket there, Paulie.
Remarkable. I mean, I said to Kyle Vandenbosch on the Red Sea Report, Cardinals have been practicing routinely in $110. Now, all of a sudden, it's 50 degrees cooler. You can run all day in that weather.
Football weather, Paul.
My goodness. So any worries, if that's the weather, any worries about not having enough, stamina or conditioning week 1 because you didn't play in the preseason? No, that goes out the window.
The Cardinals go to Buffalo so infrequently, but we go 2016, the weather was absolutely perfect in week 2 or week 3, whatever we were there.
Yep.
And the Cardinals played like
that was
crap.
the Cam Canada game, right?
That
the
was
sawed-off shotgun
among
long
many.
snappers.
I mean,
yes.
Their passing game was awful.
There goes another one. Yep, another wild pitch.
Michael Floyd had a couple of drops.
Yeah, that game was so winnable. And
But
then
the
it
weather
wasn't.
was perfect. Now, if you go back to 2004, which is the time before that, which was Fitz's rookie season, the only time I think he did not have a catch in a game.
That is true, by the way.
The weather was not any good, and it was a little bit rainy and definitely windy as hell. And that was a god awful.
Yeah, 2004. That was the one and only game of Larry Fitzgerald's career he did not have a catch in the game.
Yeah,
that is somewhat remarkable.
Josh McCown could not throw a completed pass that day, and large part of it was the wind.
By the way, if you're going to get Buffalo, let me just say this right now. Buffalo is a legitimate threat to win the AFC. I do believe that. 4-time defending division champion, but 3 straight years they've lost in the division round. But when you have Josh Allen, blah, blah, more blah, blah, we get it, okay. But if you're going to have to play Buffalo, I say Cardinals got a break playing them week 1. Brand new DC, brand new set of receivers. He has one receiver who's ever caught a pass from Josh Allen in a game, Khalil Shakir. All new receivers. The OC, although he took over middle of last season, Joe Brady, he installed all his own stuff this offseason, completely revamped secondary. That 7-year starting tandem of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer in their secondary, brand new. So, might be famous last words, but if you're getting Buffalo, I want them week 1 when I think there'll still be a lot of growing pains and there'll be a learning curve out there.
You could say the same about the Cardinals. You could.
I was actually going to say something similar.
You have the carryover of the coaching staffs, sure, but you want to talk about going up against Josh Allen. You've got essentially an entirely new defensive line. Okay, Josh Allen last year was statistically one of the most accurate quarterbacks. Didn't matter how long he had time to throw the ball. If it was 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds, he was statistically one of the most accurate quarterbacks and has the power and has the strength and the ability to do all those things to be what defensive coordinator Nick Rallis said was one of the elite quarterbacks. You have essentially unproven, to a certain extent, cornerbacks. Now, yes, you can say that, okay, yeah, he has a new group of wide receivers. Sean Murphy-Bunting is a veteran, but new in this scheme. New to being here in Arizona. Garrett Williams played inside last year. If we see him outside, that's new for him. And then opposite, okay, Starling Thomas started, half the season last year, and then Max Melton. There are still so many new pieces. Again, just talking on defense, and then you've got a pass rush group that didn't end the season so hot and doesn't have a lot of new faces besides Xavier Thomas. So you've found a way for me to sound like I'm rooting for Buffalo or something. I'm not. I'm just saying that I think I would argue opposite. I think because it's Josh Allen, I still don't think it's necessarily an even playing field. It's Josh Allen, who's pretty proven going up against a Cardinals defense that still has a lot to prove.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about, how there's so much unknown for if we're being serious right now, is there any outcome Sunday between the Bills and the Cardinals that would completely shock you? Because right now there isn't for me, for all the reasons we've just talked about.
And I so desperately want to argue that and say yes, but how many times have we gone through preseasons and realized that anything you might see ultimately can easily prove to be a false positive? So many false reads based on what you see or think in the preseason.
Right. I don't think this is any. I mean, if the Bills blew out the Cardinals, I don't think that would surprise anybody. But I don't know if I'd be surprised if the Cardinals ended up with a Titans type opener from 2021 going to Buffalo, given everything that we've talked about.
I mean, for example, to that point, everybody seems to expect, or maybe I'm just reading it this way, that, Kyler Murray against Josh Allen, couple of heavyweights, here it comes, just passing fireworks. No, the Cardinals were a top 5 rushing team last year. They're a run-first team until proven otherwise. The Bills, under Joe Brady, once he replaced the fired Ken Dorsey, down the stretch the last 5 games of last year, nobody had more rushing attempts per game than the Buffalo Bills. So if we get out of there and it's a 2-hour, 45-minute game, and there's 65 rushing attempts between the two teams combined, I would not be shocked.
I would be shocked because the NFL won't let us have a 2-hour and 45-minute game. They'll jam in more commercials, and it'll be 3 hours.
Yeah. So, by the way, the whole Josh Allen, that's a good point, Dani. If anybody ever says that a quarterback can't improve his accuracy, cannot improve his... Josh Allen is the answer to that. No, it doesn't happen very often.
I'm king of, no, you're not getting more accurate when you get to the NFL. But he has done it.
He has. And it's the only reason why he wasn't a top 3 pick at the time. Now, he still went top 10, but the reason he wasn't a top 3 pick is because there were questions about big arm. Does he have enough accuracy, anticipation? Can he really be an NFL quarterback? And, yeah, he's gotten, especially his first 3 years, he improved greatly the completion percentage in his accuracy. So now Bud, he's also turnover prone. He had 18 interceptions a year ago. The knock on him has been he's always trying to make the big play instead of living for the next play when it's not there.
There is definitely opportunity for the Cardinals defense to make their mark and really show what they're capable of. Absolutely.
On the flip side of that, what are we expecting from Kyler? You just talked about how the Cardinals are going to be run first. I agree with that. I think he was steady down the stretch. The receiving core did not help a lot. You had Michael Wilson banged up. You didn't have Marvin Harrison yet. I think the passing game needs to get more consistent, clearly. But so what are you guys expecting from the quarterback, from the Cardinals quarterback?
I'm expecting him to play faster. That's the first thing I'm expecting. Just his command of this offense, quicker decision-making. I think he'll be in sync with his targets better. Obviously, the offseason, all the time spent passing drills, both on the field, away from the field. I think they'll just be more of an intuitive, hey, I'm making eye contact on 3rd and 2 with Michael Wilson. You know what that means. You're going to run that route, and we're going to connect. I do expect to see him getting through his progressions faster. After the game, I do expect him to say, you know what, my primary read on that 3rd and 7 was Michael Wilson, but I found Marvin Harrison Jr. on my 2nd or 3rd read, something like that. I do expect a lot of different targets to get into the box score. Elijah Higgins will catch balls. Tip Ryman if he plays. James Conner, Trey Benson. I think Greg Dortch. I think by the time we're done, there'll be like 8 or 9 different pass catchers in this game.
In week one.
Interesting.
What does that mean for Marvin Harrison's stats, though?
Is this like a fantasy football question? Are you masking this?
I'm right now.
Was this out of the mailbag, Darren, and you're working this in for Joe in Glendale?
I am currently trying to keep this podcast afloat.
Really? So my answer to your question about Kyler Murray, what do you expect, was sinking this podcast. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying. No, these go together. I'm curious. I wasn't thinking about Marvin Harrison until you just got through saying 8 or 9 guys are going to have catches.
Doesn't matter, Darren. Just got to win the game.
And that's fine. But there's going to be. It feels like you're getting this vibe. Like if Marvin Harrison doesn't go for 120 this first weekend, there's going to be a lot of disappointed fans. Not fantasy players, fans.
Forget about fantasy football. You know what I'm sick of?
I saw you nod your head over there, Alex.
Thanks for asking. Here's what I'm sick of, is all the Giants fans thinking Malik Neighbors is going to be the best rookie receiver. All these Bills fans, Bills
look who's
Mafia,
throwing to him.
Keon Coleman, right? You hear about all these other rookie receivers. I think on Sunday is where Marvin Harrison Jr. reasserts who was the first rookie receiver off the board.
I liked everything you were saying, and I'm okay with spreading the ball around. I don't think it's going to be 8 or 9 players. I think it's going to be, especially since they didn't play in the preseason, it's going to be the core 4, maybe 5.
Paul's drunk on his own power.
Of who the targets are going to be is what I would more so expect.
Did I miss an extra line in my job title? I don't really remember being bestowed with any extra power. Basically, I have none.
Sure.
But just for
run
that,
with it, Paul.
Just for that, I am going to bust out. The Paulie Pigskin Division has a new innovation for this year. It's our key to the game. And as you see, it's an actual Cardinals key that I found at a local hardware store when I was in there looking for a part to fix a broken toilet. By the way, biggest win of the weekend right here. This guy fixed the toilet at Casa Calvisi. The Vegas haters and doubters said I was a 10-1 long shot, but I fixed it.
And that's why you weren't watching anything on TV.
While I was there, Dani, I found this key, and I said, you know what? I'm going to use this year as a visual as our key to the game. And with that being the case...
I have a lot of questions. Number one, is it going to stay in the packaging the whole season?
I don't know.
Number two,
that's a
has
good
it
question.
already been programmed to work at your house?
Well, I tried to get it cut for the house key, and apparently this is a different manufacturer than I have, and so they were incapable of cutting this key or otherwise it'd be on my key rings.
Question number three, are you getting reimbursed?
I don't know. Somebody owes me $650 for this thing. That's all I got to say.
Number 4, does it end up as a ornament on your Christmas tree?
That's a good one. I don't know. Does it even make it to week 2? I think Jim Almohandro will probably
You're going to lose it already?
Oh, no, he'll probably cut this. This is bad
I don't
content.
understand how it works. You give it out post-game, like the Tuesday after a game?
it's
or
pre-game.
what?
No, it's going into the game. I'm just saying I flash this as okay, it's time for our key to the game.
Reminds
Are
me
you
of-
going to flash that at the player? That's just when you're in the booth.
That's like when you're in high school and you're sitting up in the stands as a student and there's a big play coming out, so you're like key play and everybody shakes their keychains.
Right. And there's the one mom with the cowbell every single time. More
Yes.
cowbell, right? Yeah. So here's the key. It's the 12 personnel. If you guys are already sick of Ron Wolfley talking about 12 personnel, hold on to yourselves this week because that's what Buffalo runs with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And the Cardinals on defense have to figure out how to neutralize that matchup. That is your key to the game, Darren Urban. Right there. How do the Cardinals defend the Buffalo tight end tandem?
Do you think if the Bills came to Ron Wolfley and offered him the same job, would he go back to Buffalo?
He is so soft when it comes to the weather. Don't tell him I said this. There's no chance. He could not even handle the first half of a Buffalo winter. He would not make it.
That's fair.
There's no way. So,
Even down by the gravel pit.
yeah. By the way, I'm going to get dragged to different Buffalo wing joints, so pray for me on Saturday. So I'm going to have to hear about.
Are you a
Wolf.
wing guy? You're not a wing guy.
No,
either,
I'm
are
not
you?
really. And Wolf
What?
waxing
How do you
poetic
not
about
like
wings.
wings?
I mean,
Well,
they're
he
all
doesn't
right.
like Paul doesn't like anything. He likes salads with
No.
his dressing on the side.
Just don't get the ranch near a wing. I just come on.
Oh, that's
now.
Oh, I
right.
love
yeah.
ranch.
I
Oh,
forgot.
no.
Do you like blue
I
cheese?
don't completely soak
No,
the wing in
neither.
the ranch because then you lose all the flavoring.
Because it's just too heavy of a dressing.
So, like, yeah, why would you go to all that trouble to prepare the wing with the proper seasoning
Not
and sauces,
every wing
and then
gets
you just
ranch.
dunk it in
no,
there?
not every wing gets ranch, and you can't fully dunk it. No, I'm like in the middle of the argument.
So Dani, are you doing the full Buffalo experience? Are you doing the wings in Niagara Falls? And
I am. We're gonna do Niagara Falls. I think some of us from our department.
Yep.
And then I am friends with the Buffalo team reporter. She's also a Mizzou graduate, actually. So we're going to go grab dinner. So
Mizzou, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, she's going to take
Okay.
me. She asked if I wanted Italian or wings, and I said wings.
That's fair.
Wait a minute, weren't you friends with a Colts reporter as well? Isn't
Can
there
I
a
not
Mizzou
have more
connection
than
there?
one friend?
I want to know, like, I'm always appalled here.
No,
Like,
the Colts reporter did not go to Mizzou.
Okay.
There's just
All
like we stay in contact with each other and try and meet up if we can, if someone travels during the season.
I'm reminded of the Bills Mafia, but who has the bigger broadcast mafia? Alums of Syracuse or Mizzou?
Mizzou.
Mizzou. Okay.
I don't know. I think if you look at ASU, there's quite a few ASU
ASU now is up and comer when it comes to the broadcast journalism mafia.
broadcast and written. I come across more people that say alumni of Cronkite across Twitter than any Mizzou's.
Okay. All right. That's
Just
good.
saying.
That's good. Because, we're all tired of, Pash and Grialou and the whole Syracuse Mafia thing. And they get all these advantages and breaks in the, in the broadcast industry
I feel
just
like
because of where they
Syracuse
went to
is kind
school.
of passed by, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So that's the headline on this podcast. Dani Sureck says all Syracuse broadcast journalism grads are has-beens. It's all Mizzou these days. That's the headline.
That's a quote.
Okay. That's good. Darren,
Yes.
what are you saying? You're not going to get wings while you're in
I
Buffalo?
might get wings.
Okay.
I could see myself getting wings.
Do you guys only do bone in? There are people who feel really strongly about not getting boneless wings.
Okay, this is how cheap I am. It kind of depends sometimes. I like bone in. I don't hate boneless or chicken nuggets or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I agree.
But if I go to a place and the real chicken wings are like $8 more than the boneless, it's the bones aren't worth $8 to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'll do both, but it just depends.
I see. So
Am I wrong?
no,
I mean,
I didn't realize there are different price points of the wings.
Again, when I was like, younger in college, and you'd go to the and I'm drawing a blank on the place, but it was by ASU, and if you got a drink, you got as many wings as you want for 10 cents a piece.
Whoa.
And in my younger days, I could put away 40 wings at a sitting.
40.
Yeah, it was not good. I also weighed a lot more, but you can't do that anymore. I've gone a native New Yorker. That's what it was.
Did you used to go with the old linemen to their Thursday night dinners back in those days when you were pushing maximum density? Did you used to go out with those guys or no?
No, that was not me.
No? Okay. Just curious.
Those who can do, those who can't write about it, Paulie.
So, Darren, according to the National Chicken Council, Buffalo-style wings originated in 1964 at the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, New York.
What does that mean? Just buffalo, like
Sauce.
the sauce?
Yeah.
So apparently
Okay.
a lady by the name of Teresa cooked leftover wings in hot sauce for her son and his friends. The wings were an immediate hit and then became a regular menu item. And let's hope she trademarked it or was able to, quote, wet her beak somehow because somebody made a lot of cash off those wings.
Sounds like Buffalo is leading the charge in female empowerment. First, the lady with Niagara Falls.
Edith.
It's true.
Oh, Annie.
Annie
Edson.
Annie.
Yeah.
And now
What's her name? Teresa Bellissimo. Solid Italian.
I
I mean,
like it.
let's face it. Before wings really hit it hard, whenever it was 15, 20 years ago. I mean, half the people were throwing that stuff away. They didn't want that part of the chicken.
That is true. Either threw it away or went in the soup. One or the other.
Yeah, that's true.
A
lot of soup.
At the end of the month when you're trying to make ends meet to the next paycheck, boom, it goes in the soup, and that's how you make ends meet.
Because it's like the chicken thigh thing now. I can't do chicken thighs.
Yeah, too fatty.
Okay.
And now it's like that's what everybody wants. I'm like, no.
I like my wings hot. That's what I'm hoping for in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I want a good kick to them.
Wait, how much of a kick?
Like enough to where I'm still enjoying it. I'm not like
we
in
have
pain.
We have a coworker, Mike Helm, who would like to get them as hot as possible every time, and he regrets it every single time.
No, and like you got to get something to mix with it, like a
ranch?
dry rub. No, like a dry. You know what I mean, like a different flavor.
Yeah, I get that.
But you will never see me ever order mild. I'm either getting like.
It's not worth it to you.
No, I'm doing hot, and then I'm doing maybe like barbecue
I
or
got
lemon pepper or something, garlic.
Is me or is this episode of Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation, devolved into like an episode of Larry David, or maybe a Seinfeld episode, just all the minutia and everything we got into.
Hey, you're the one leading the charge.
A lot of disagreement here.
I think it's fair that we need more minutia in our podcasts.
So to highlight and showcase all the disagreements, because I think we have disagreed on virtually everything for the past hour, apparently we're going to battle it out when it comes to NFL games this year.
Oh, that's true.
Somebody care to explain? Maybe we haven't defined this exactly. Just
We're
know
working on it.
There will be blood. We're going to pick games, and then you're going to have to answer to your picks.
Not on the air because when we record this, it's way too early in the week, but we'll pick games later in the week, and then we'll review one or two of the picks early next week and keep track. And I'm sure Dani will lord it over us when she wins.
She sure will. Paul, are you playing fantasy this year?
I am playing fantasy. I got roped into it. So, yes,
This
apparently
is the first time ever?
there's a draft, and I haven't done it in about 5 years. So I have half a mind to let all the picks just autofill, default.
Boo.
Oh,
Let
you're one
AI
of those
and then-
guys?
well,
then
then
why
just-
are you even playing?
No, then just take it from there and see what I can do with the team.
I had to, so I went out of town for the long weekend, and driving back, there was so much traffic and construction, it added on a solid hour. So I ended up pulling into my apartment at 5:53. My family, I'm in a couple leagues, but I'm in one with my family, including like cousins, my aunt, uncle.
And Brian.
Yes. And the draft started at 6 o'clock. And it was an auto. And this is only the second year we're doing it. A lot of them haven't played. So it's not, strict rules. We're not playing like Dynasty. So it was a random order. I looked out and got the first pick. And it started at 6 o'clock. And I was racing to get home and unpack my car so I could log into the draft on time.
I was going to say, you didn't have to put any thought about who you're going to pick. I mean, that should be pretty easy, right?
Yeah, who is the number one pick? I should probably know this in case I somehow I know. Is it Christian McCaffrey? Who is the number one pick?
Yes.
Help me
I'll
out.
say if
Christian
he wasn't the number one pick in like almost every single league,
By the way, when
I
Dani,
will say I am going to. Ugh, this annoys me, and he's going to be mad and bring this up. I don't appreciate that in this specific league. Have you guys ever heard where you can have multiple quarterbacks
yes,
play?
I've heard of
hate
it.
that.
I think it's stupid, but
First of all, well, maybe I'm so upset because I didn't realize that until like 3 quarters into the season last year that everybody was playing 2 quarterbacks because you can have a quarterback and one of your like a flex or an offensive position, offensive player.
Kicked.
No, I still made it to playoffs, which shows you how good I was. I just think it's so silly. So then we're playing, and my sisters and my cousins are taking random quarterbacks in the second. I feel really confident in my team, given who I'm going up against in that league. I will say that.
Who's exuded more confidence in front of the mic so far this year? Mack Wilson Sr. or Dani Sureck? I'm trying to. It's
Danny's
a tough
up
call.
there.
It's tough.
Yeah, I'm up there.
Although
I've still got 2 more leagues to draft.
Although the way she's describing her family league, it reminds me of those times when I would coach my son when he was like 12, and then I would scrimmage with him. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
I would hope you would dominate.
It's really a competition between myself, my dad, and my uncle.
Okay. By the way, when Dani said dynasty, like a term, fantasy football, I nodded like I knew, but I really have no idea. So I'm going to have to coach myself up before tonight's draft.
You can essentially keep players from, or one player from your previous season, and the draft order is how you finished. It's more along that.
I was going to ask you if your TV watching included you watch any NFL games, but you're probably busy on
What's
Sundays.
What's your team name going to be?
The Pauly Pigskins. That's the one thing I know.
Okay.
The Pauly Pigskins. No, I'm going to do the Brenston Buckner. I still remember him saying when he got done, the longtime D-line coach, told a story, got done playing, was trying to decide whether to go into coaching or not. I'll coach a kid's youth league team. His son wasn't even playing at that point. Just went to the local youth league. And there were all these dads who'd been there and coaching forever. They had all their own players. They did a draft. And he said, that's fine. Just give me your leftovers. I'll coach them up. He just nodded. We're going to kick your tail by the end of the year. Just give me your leftovers. And he's all, we did. We were the last team into the playoffs, and we won it all. All I did was coach them all up. He said it was a great story.
That is a good story.
And he said,
I could see Buck doing that.
He said the only gratification work with kids, but the only thing I got out of it, didn't get $1, was just the look on the faces of every other dad coach who thought he had it all figured out till we kicked their tail in the playoffs.
Well, I'm rooting for you, Paul.
So we'll see.
Are you
Because
really?
I'm not in the league, so I can root for him.
Okay, there we go.
Wait a minute, you're not in this league that we're
No, because
drafting
that would have
tonight?
been my 4th league.
Oh,
That's
my God.
excessive.
Okay. All right. Well, the key to my success, apparently, is going to be no Dani Sureck in this league that I'm in otherwise. So now I have a shot, apparently. According to Dani, I have a shot at winning this league because she's
want to
not
win
in it.
You're going to want to win the picks. You guys are going head-to-head in these picks.
That's true. You're right. Okay. All right. There we go. There will be blood. We'll see how it goes. By Thursday night, the first of 272 games, Thursday night, 18 weeks.
Oh, and the next day we go to Buffalo.
And you know what is Friday night? A game in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Did you know that Sao Paulo, Brazil is the 5th largest city in the world? It's bigger than Mexico City. It's bigger than Beijing or New York City. I did not know that. They said that on Good Morning Football. So I'll leave you with that fun factoid here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.